Someone on Facebook just said the Philippines is trying to control 10 countries: Russia, China, North Korea, South Korea, Japan, even Seba. Are we building an empire or just claiming X is back? But what if I told you there's actually a crazy grain of truth in all this? Welcome to Insyd Report, where viral comments become deep dives, served with laughs, facts, and a side of geopolitical jiggle. Let's break it down, country by country. My cousin Mark always dreamed of seeing snow. His wallpaper? Moscow's Red Square. But when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, he tore it down. He told me, I wanted adventure, not war. And that's when it hit me, Russia and the Philippines? We've always been strangers in the same room. Here's the real tea: Russia and the Philippines barely talk. In 2022, the Philippines voted at the UN to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Bold, considering how many countries tried to stay neutral. That move alone? Ice cold to Moscow. Economically, we don't trade much. A few electronics, some bananas, a sprinkle of Filipino expats in Moscow, but nothing that screams alliance. Militarily? Forget it. We almost bought Russian helicopters once. But under US pressure, that deal crashed harder than a Soviet rocket test. No alliances, no military pacts, and honestly, not even serious business ties. But here's a curveball. Starting 2024, Filipinos can now visit Russia visa-free for short stays. Yup, we are not besties, but they opened the door. It's like your ex sending a random hey at 2 a.m. Awkward, but kinda nice. Still, let's be real. The only thing we truly control in Russia is the YouTube algorithm. Search Russian guys react to Jollibee or Filipino food taste test, and boom, soft power baby. We may not have tanks, but we've got lumpia, lesson, and ballot confusing the whole Kremlin. So no, the Philippines isn't controlling Russia. But in the Cold War of global influence, we are melting hearts, one adobo video at a time. Smash that like button if you've ever watched a foreigner's try-ballot video, and don't you dare scroll. Up next is China, and this one might hit way too close to the West Philippine Sea. Buckle up. What if I told you China is patrolling waters just 55 nautical miles from Luzon, and there's nothing stopping them? Yeah, let that sink in. In a coastal barangay somewhere in Zambales, a local fisherman's story recently went viral. He said, "The sea used to feed my family. Now, it feeds my fear." Every time he throws out his net, he's not just hoping for a good catch, he's bracing for another Chinese Coast Guard ship flashing its lights like a warning. That's the reality many Filipinos face along the West Philippine Sea. Since the 2016 arbitral ruling, which ruled in our favor and rejected China's massive 9-dash line, the drama hasn't died down. Instead, China doubled down. Fake islands, gray zone tactics, and aggressive maritime patrols are now the norm. But in 2025, the Philippines finally said, enough. We are now boarding foreign vessels in our own waters. Yes, you heard that right. The Philippine Navy isn't just watching anymore, it's acting. And if you think we are standing alone, think again. This year's Balakatan 2025 was our biggest yet. 14,000 troops from the US, Philippines, and allies like Australia, France, South Korea, and the UK. It's not just a war game. It's a warning. And here's the kicker. China's been sending patrol ships off Luzon and was even caught with a submarine drone near Masbate. What for? Surveillance? Provocation? Nobody really knows, but we all feel the tension. Meanwhile, Filipino troops successfully completed resupply missions to the BRP Sierra Madre at Ayungin Shoal, despite the Chinese presence. That's a quiet win, but a powerful one. So no, we don't control China. But maybe, just maybe, we are finally controlling the narrative. Smash that like if you believe we should stand our ground. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Is diplomacy still the way, or is it time we push back harder? And don't click away. Next up is North, where the Cold War never ended, and somehow, the Philippines still finds itself playing referee. Serious question. What do you call a country that throws missiles like confetti, but couldn't even place us on a map? That's right, North Korea. While we are here arguing over who makes the best sizig, Kim Jong-un's over there testing hypersonic missiles like it's a weekend hobby. And guess who made it into his burn book in 2023? Us. Yep. After the Philippines joined military drills with the US, North Korea decided to throw shade, threatening us like we are some kind of major player on their radar. But truth is, we are not. And we are fine with that. Where we actually stand. 0 embassies. No trade. No love letters. The Philippines has upheld a full trade ban on North Korea since 2006. We support UN sanctions, and as of 2025, there's still no formal connection. Not even a scene zone message. Fun fact, in 2024, North Korea tested over 24 ballistic missiles in 1 year. The Philippines? We tested new toll gates. From a viral thread on Pinoy Twitter. Controlling North Korea? Bro, we are just making sure they don't notice us breathing. Here's a wild one. A barber in Cebu, we'll call him Jerry, was cutting hair during that 2023 threat. When the news flashed, he looked up and said, "Kung may jera, at least Molinis and Gupit KO." We laughed, but Loki, it hit deep. From our stats, more people are watching than subscribing. Wild, right? If you've laughed, learned, or even paused for a second, welcome to the family. We are just getting started. Thank you. All right. So no, the Philippines isn't out here trying to control North Korea. We are just staying in our lane, dodging nuclear glances, and trying not to cough too loud. Next up, South Korea, where the real drama begins, and it's not just from the K-dramas. Stick around. When Jana left Manila to work as a caregiver in Busan, she didn't cry until she saw her daughter's face blur behind the airport glass. 12 hours later, she was scrubbing a stranger's kitchen in a language she didn't speak, whispering silent prayers that they wouldn't notice the tremble in her hands. That's not a movie scene. That's the reality of over 60,000 overseas Filipino workers in South Korea. They trade birthdays for bank transfers, hugs for video calls, and comfort for responsibility. But even in the coldest winters, they rise. South Korea and the Philippines aren't just friendly neighbors. We are evolving into strategic soulmates. In 2025, both nations greenlit joint naval patrols across the West Philippine Sea, tightening military ties in a region heating up fast. On land, Filipinos are among the most requested English teachers in Korean classrooms, bringing not just language, but warmth and resilience. Even in K-pop, you'll find Filipino stylists backstage, dancers in rehearsals, backup vocalists behind the hits. The influence? Subtle, but real. Still, not every story is glamorous. Ivan, a factory worker in Gyeonggi-do, collapsed after an 18-hour shift. He never got to see his daughter's college graduation, the very dream he'd crossed oceans to provide for. That's the silent price paid behind the remittances and resilience. We don't control South Korea, but we shape its heartbeat, one sacrifice, one story, one Spotify playlist at a time. Breathe this in for a second, because what's coming next is even more personal. Seba, a piece of land claimed by history and haunted by betrayal. You don't want to miss what's next. Imagine your grandfather fighting in the Bataan Death March, and now his grandson rides a Japanese-funded LRT to his IT job in Makati. Sounds surreal? That's the emotional loop we live in. The past between the Philippines and Japan was soaked in blood and ash. But today, we are building bridges, literally and metaphorically. In 2025, Japan stepped up big time. We are talking about billions in development aid, funding not just trains and roads, but our very own Philippine Coast Guard. That's not charity. That's strategy. Because in a region with rising tension, China's patrols, North Korea's missiles, Japan needs strong friends. And we are not just friends. We are allies now. The Reciprocal Access Agreement, signed in 2025, allows Japanese forces to enter Philippine territory for joint disaster response and rapid defense deployment. Translation: if there's a crisis, typhoon or tension, they're in our corner. Fast. Japan's also training Filipino naval cadets, shaping a future force ready for the Pacific Theater. Now picture this: Daniel, a naval scholar from Bohol, standing on the deck of a Japanese destroyer, learning tactics once used against his own ancestors. He once said, "Lolo forgave. I fight smarter, because now we fight beside them." That's the new era. Not revenge. Strategy. Growth. Respect. But here's where it hits home. In a world where alliances shift like tectonic plates, Japan's support isn't just technical, it's emotional. It's a nation once feared, now funding the dreams of our youth and backing our sovereignty when others provoke. Stick around, because up next, we cross into Sabah, a land tangled in flags, memories, and ghosts of a forgotten deal. You're going to want to see how deep this rabbit hole goes. Sabah isn't just a place on a map, it's a scar that hasn't healed. Flashback to the 1800s. The Sultan of Sulu leases Sabah to a British company. Nut sells. Leases. Fast forward. And Malaysia now holds it like a family heirloom they refuse to return. The Philippines? Still knocking on the door, still left outside. In 2022, a European arbitration court ruled in favor of the Sultan's heirs, $15 billion in compensation. A global MIC drop? And Malaysia? They basically shrugged it off. No payment. No apology. Just a wall of silence. Then came 2025. Our lawmakers once again demanded Sabah be included in official Philippine maps. Was it provocation? No. It was remembrance. It was about telling the next generation, this part of our story still matters. You ever hear of Rowena, a third-generation Filipino in Lahad Datu, born to a family that's lived in Sabah longer than she's lived anywhere else? Her grandfather kept records, actual receipts, of lease payments sent back to the Sultanate. She told a local journalist, "I'm not here to start a war, but I won't let history bury my roots either." This isn't just a border dispute. It's a personal story for thousands of Filipinos whose ancestors were never given closure. And it's not over. Right now, Google Trends is spiking with searches like Sabah Claim 2025, Sultan of Sulu heirs, and Malaysia Sabah dispute. This is not ancient history, it's today's news. It's your news. And the tension? It's not cooling. It's curdling. Identity, land, dignity, all tangled in a story no one wants to touch, but everyone should understand. Stick around, because up next, we step into waters even murkier, where China's maritime presence isn't just growing, it's watching us back. Imagine this, it's noche buena. The food's great, the vibe's chill, until someone brings up that one family issue. Yeah, the one everyone pretends doesn't exist. Boom. Awkward silence. That's us in Malaysia. We send over 200,000 OFWs to Malaysia, nannies, engineers, nurses. We shop their brands, enjoy their shows, and jam to their music. But once Sabah enters the chat, suddenly, the room gets cold. In 2025, things were calm, on paper. Diplomatic ties held. Trade flowed. ASEAN handshakes all around. But make no mistake, under the surface, tensions bubble. One wrong headline, one careless tweet about territorial claims, and diplomatic Twitter turns into a war zone. Now let's bring in Junel, a Pinoy welder working in Kuala Lumpur. Been there 9 years. Pays his taxes. Sends money to Zamboanga every month. But every time the Sabah issue flares up, his co-workers throw side eyes. One even joked, "Your country still wants our land." That night, Junel skipped dinner. He didn't fight back. But deep down, he thought, we never stopped wanting it. Because Sabah, it's not just geography. It's unfinished business. A chapter left open. A question Malaysia doesn't want to hear, and the Philippines won't stop asking. The Sabah dispute timeline stretches back over a century. And as of now, no final agreement exists. That means every year, every map update, every diplomatic speech, it's a reminder that this wound hasn't healed. So where does this leave us? Allies, trading partners, but also estranged siblings in a historical family drama. And if you think this is the climax, nah, we are only halfway through. What happens when another superpower gets involved and uses this tension as leverage? You'll want to stay for that. You ever have that neighbor? The one who borrows your tools without asking. But when a bully shows up, they are the first to stand by your side? That's Vietnam and the Philippines, awkward allies, accidental friends. In the West Philippine Sea, it's chaos on water. Filipino and Vietnamese fishing boats have clashed over territory for years. Elbows were thrown, nets were cut, insults flew across the waves. But in 2025, the game flipped. Suddenly, PH and Vietnam launched joint naval patrols, not out of friendship, but out of a shared enemy, Chinese aggression. Because sometimes, it's not about liking each other, it's about hating the same threat more. Enter Armin, a fisherman from Palawan. Last year, he was nearly rammed by a Vietnamese boat. But today, he shares waters with them. We wave now, he chuckles, but it's the Chinese ships we both keep an eye on. And that right there? That's real-world diplomacy at sea level. Fact, China claims nearly all of the South China Sea. That puts Vietnamese, Filipino, and even Malaysian fishermen in the crosshairs. So for once, we dropped the rivalry and picked up radar. This PH-Vietnam Maritime Alliance isn't just symbolic, it's strategic. Joint drills, real-time coordination, a united front in contested waters. It's not kumbaya, it's survival. And if you think this is the end of the frenemy arc, oh, just wait. Because in the next chapter, this uneasy alliance might be the only thing standing between regional peace and an open conflict. So grab your popcorn. This show's only heating up. It started with cracked soil. In a quiet corner of Bohol, Ella's father knelt down to scoop dust from a land he once called fertile. For 3 generations, that rice field fed not just their family, but their dignity. But in 2023, the rains never came. No harvest, no income, just silence and the growing hum of desperation. Ella, only 19, packed her bags. She boarded a plane to Thailand, not for vacation, but for redemption. In Chiang Mai, she enrolled in an agricultural program with nothing but a half scholarship and a prayer. While her classmates talked weekend trips to Phuket, Ella stayed up late, learning about drought-resistant rice, vertical farming, and sustainable irrigation. Fast forward to 2025, the Philippines signs a groundbreaking rice deal with Thailand. And Ella? She's coming home. Not just with knowledge, but with a plan. To rebuild her father's farm. To feed her people. That's what this alliance is about. Not just trade, but hope, stacked in sacks of rice. But here's the twist most people don't talk about. If the rice crisis escalates, the Philippines could lose 30% of its staple supply. One bad harvest in Thailand. Just one, and we are staring down empty shelves, skyrocketing prices, and riots. Sound far-fetched? It happened in 2008. It can happen again. So yeah, we are not fighting Thailand. But if this friendship falters, it's not just diplomatic embarrassment, it's children going to bed hungry. That's the tension. Peace, but fragile. Food, but conditional. And while most see Thailand as the chill neighbor, what they don't see is this. Right now, in a quiet Chiang Mai lab, Ella holds a test tube of drought-proof seeds, her hands shaking. Because the next time the land back home cracks, it might not be a father who bends down in despair. It might be a daughter planting salvation. Would you fight to bring food back to your family? Or leave it to fate? So now the question is, who really belongs in the 10th spot? Was it Malaysia, with its fiery tension over Sabah and that unspoken family feud no one wants to talk about? Was it Vietnam, the frenemy next door, who may clash over fish but stand shoulder to shoulder when bigger bullies show up? Or maybe it's Thailand, quiet, peaceful, but holding the keys to our next meal in a world where peace can shatter with one bad harvest? Each country brought conflict. Each brought cooperation. But more than that, each one exposed a part of us, the Filipino spirit, resilient, loyal, proud, and always searching for our place in a world that rarely gives straight answers. So now, it's your turn. Which country deserves that 10th slot? And why? Is it about loyalty, strategy, history? Or is it something deeper, like who we become when no one's watching? Type your thoughts below. Argue. Debate. Get emotional. This isn't just foreign policy, it's personal. And don't go anywhere. Because in the next episode, we are diving into the country nobody expected to turn its back on the Philippines. Trust me, you'll want to see this.